Hello and welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic for today's bonus content. And today we have a new variety of Sudoku I've not seen before. Felix Stuckman sent us this Greater Arrows Sudoku in which the arrows in the grid, whatever number is in their cell, it is pointing to that many numbers larger than itself. So I guess, we could look at this. If this was a 5, there'd be 5 numbers larger than 5 in the row, in those cells that it's pointing to. So that's how the constraint works. Now, just before we get going, usual kind of roundup. I think Simon's on a radio show at the moment. He's got more lined up. Also, we are on Patreon. We've got all that new content recently, and do have a look into the Discord server as well. I'll post a link for that too. And that's enough probably. Let's get cracking with this puzzle. You can try it on the link below the video before watching this. So now it's got to help where these arrows are so close to the edge. They clearly can't have they can't be pointing to more than 1 or 2 numbers larger than themselves. So that must be 1 and 2 for that row. They could both be pointing at a 1, funnily enough. So we can't, in fact, one of them must be pointing at a 1. But that could be a 2 pointing at a 1 in either of those positions, or that could be a 1 pointing there. So that doesn't help too much. But this one, for instance, that's looking at 2 cells only. This one must be 1 or 2. This must be 1, 2, or 3. This must be 1 or 2. What about this double arrow? Clearly it can't be higher than 3. Actually, yeah, it's got to be 3, hasn't it? Because there are 6 numbers greater than 3 in the column, and this is pointing both ways. So it couldn't be 2 because there are 7 numbers greater than 2, and a double arrow would imply there are only 4. So I think any double arrow has to have a 3 on it. So we can put one there as well. Slightly unusual deduction. Now where else? We've got arrows pointing at each other. Those two must be at least 3, but they could be 4 or 5. Actually, they can't be 3 because they're both looked at by a 3, so they are 4 or 5. Do they have to be the same? Maybe. I can't work that out immediately. This one can't be 3 because that's in the box. That's 1 or 2. This can't be 3 either. We've actually got a 1-2 pair. Now, does this have to be 2? Well, no, this won't be higher than it if it is. Actually, still don't know. It could even be 1, 1, 1, and that would be fulfilled. I would have thought that was a giveaway, but it's not. Now, what's this? This is in a row with 1 and 2 and a 3, so it's got to be at least 4. In fact, it's definitely got to be 4, because only those 4 cells can be higher. Yeah, that's definitely a 4. I thought that might tell me what this is, but it doesn't. It's a slightly strange puzzle. This is 1, 2, 3, or 4. This one, again, there's an arrow both ends of a diagonal here. Can't be more than 4. And this end, I don't know that it's got to be the same. This end, though, it's at least 3 because there's a 1 and 2 in the row. And what can this be? I mean, I suggested that it could be 5 in the introduction, which it clearly can't because there's a 5 in the column. I don't think it can be more than 4 because, in fact, if you ever put a 5 in an arrow cell, that would be insane. Well, in an arrow cell on a straight line rather than a diagonal, that wouldn't work because you can't have 5 numbers greater than 5. I mean, the entertaining thing is here you could have a 5. Actually, here you could have anything up to a 7. You could still fit in 8, 9, 9, 8, 8, 9, 8 or something. But it's a bit unlikely, but it's It's possible, and we've got to stick with logic. So again, how about this one? It can't be... Oh yes, it can't... This time, it's worth noting, it can't be as little as 1 or 2, because at least 5 of these numbers would have to be higher, even if it was a 2. So this one is seen by 3, 5, and 6. So this must be a 4 as well. Now that does give us some help here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are the candidates, and one of them must be the other side. This must be higher. I don't think we can go higher than 7, because this is only looking at 7 numbers. The number at the end, this can't be a 7, because that number at the end would have to be a 7 as well. Yes, I think arrows that look at each other do have to be the same number. After all, I wasn't sure, but I don't think there's any way you could make one of these diagonals work if the arrows at the ends weren't the same. So this one is 5 or 6. In fact, it's got to be 6, because that's seeing that 5. Yes. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. All of these numbers are bigger than 6. So this is seen by a 9, so that's 7 or 8. This is 7 or a 9. This one's 7 or 9. And this one's 7 or 8. How fascinating. That's clearly one of the bigger constraints built in here, actually. Now, what about this number? Then now I believe these have to be the same. So this is 3 or 4 down here. Ah, and that number is... Okay, that number's smaller than 3 or 4. I was thinking I was about to prove it was 3. I'll tell you what I've forgotten. Regular Sudoku. Sorry if you've been shouting at that at the screen for a while. Maybe I just heard you, because I'm spotting that those 6s give us a 6. Actually, they've given us that from the start, since that could never be a 6. That gives us a 6 here. 6 in one of those 2 cells. I'll put it in the corner for the regular notation. Oh no, 6 in one of those 2 because of that 6 and that 1. That means that's not a 6. So we can fill in 6 there. And in fact, that's the only place in column 7. So we've suddenly finished the 6s from not really thinking about those before. I'm still anxious to prove whether that's 3 or 4, but I can't quite do it yet. Now this can't be 4 anymore, because there's a 4 here. This is only 1 or 2. Therefore, one of these has to be 1 or 2. 3, 4, 6, 1, 2. So this is 8 or 9 as a result. This one... Oh, look, that 7 has knocked out one of the possibilities there. In fact, I should never have written in the 2 possibilities. That's always 8. That's 9 now. 9, 4, 6. One of these is 7. Oh, and that is interesting for the arrow pointing out, and that must now be a 2. That gives us 1 here, and that is interesting. There's only one number greater than 1 in this diagonal. That lets us fill in those 1s. That gives us a 2 here. Oh, the 4 in this row has given us a 3 there, right, and with the arrow at the other end has to be the same, so that's a 3. So that has to be bigger than 3, but one of these isn't. I don't know which one. Oh, that wasn't quite as helpful as I thought. Ah, this 1 or 2 has been sorted out by that 1. The 9 has sorted that into a 7. The 2, it's hard to keep track. You get suddenly so much information. Now there's only one number here bigger than the 1. So one of these 2 must be a 1. It doesn't have to be this one yet, I don't think. Interesting. Now, this puzzle doesn't work like other puzzles. The way information comes is quite strange. Okay, this is a 5-9 pair to complete the row. We can see which way round they are from the 9 in the grid. Now look at 9s, they're good. That's giving us 9s all over the place. A 9 in one of those. Oh yeah, this can't be 9 because it can't see 9 cells. So this is 9. Let's go to the right mode. There we go. That puts 9 here. Now, This is now reduced to 1, 2, or 7, and you can already see 3 bigger numbers. It's got to be 7, and despite that, it's seeing 7 numbers larger than 7. Every one of the cells on this diagonal is 8 or 9. So that's 8, that's 8, and that's 8. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful bit of constraint being put in there. 7, 8. That's so surprising that a 7 on a diagonal with 7 cells on it is an arrow. Now, this one is looking at whatever it is, it's higher than 2. So it's only looking at 2 numbers so far. So it must be 3 that are bigger than it. Yeah, that doesn't actually help with that cell. 2 and 5 to finish off column 8. I mean, there'll be things popping up that are very clear to you all over the place. I can only see so many things at once. So 8 and 2 up here to finish that off. 8 in row 3 must now be there. We've got a 7, 5 pair. 3 and 1 we can fill in. 7, 4 pair there. I don't know quite how that works yet. It may be that we've got arrows pointing at things that I haven't managed to tick off yet. Still don't know whether that one's 4 or 5 for the arrow. The only place for 3 in this row, however, is here. Again, that could have been a little more helpful. Right, 7 must be here, 1 there. 9 is now here and not here. This is a 5 or 4, as is this one. Oh, in fact, we don't know what that is yet. They're going to have to be decided by the rows. Okay, in column 6 we can finish off with a 1 and a 3. That one decides, oh, actually 5 and 7 there, decided a long time ago that was a 2. Now we can put 1 there. This is a 4, it's the last possibility. I should never have written 4 or 5 there, given the 5 there. Not been a great solve, I'll admit that, but I mean, there's a lot of information here, a lot of ways you can go at this puzzle. I don't think it will have been beyond anybody, I hope. It's an interesting concept. It's certainly a relatively clean puzzle from a solving point of view. So this one must be 2, mustn't it? And, you know, I hope you found that enjoyable. I think that is quite an interesting puzzle. Now, I'm still left with a few 4 5s and a 5 7 pair, and this must be due to arrows pointing at something that are going to sort the last bit out. Now, this 4 is already seeing 4 bigger numbers. Oh yes, we decided 4 has to be at the end. So this number is going to have to be a 4 as well, I think. Let's hope that doesn't clash as we fill in the remaining pairs that we've resolved. 7, 7. I should have gone back to the mouse, shouldn't I? I forgot I had it. Right, 5 there, and I think that does it. Let's just check this time, because I've been entering all sorts of things. Yeah, that works. As long as that works for all the arrows, and I've checked an awful lot of them as we've gone through, that's the solution. That's a nice puzzle. Thanks to Felix for creating that and sending it to us. As I say, I don't think that's too taxing. Anybody could have a go at that and work their way through it once they've drawn the necessary conclusions, particularly about arrows pointing short distances. I think they were very helpful. But certainly entertaining to have a 7 arrow in the grid. That must be very hard to achieve in this sort of grid. 8 is clearly impossible. Yeah, that's brilliant. 7 is clearly the maximum achievable, and even there's a couple of 6 arrows as well, which are pretty difficult too. Nice idea. Really good execution as well. Enjoyed that. Thanks very much to Felix. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you again soon on Cracking the Cryptic. Bye for now.